It is Sunday evening yet again, and that means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. We've got a 30-minute-ish show coming up for you with a little bit of chat before and after, two fun topics and some potpourri to get into this on this episode 58. So get into it right now. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, however you got here, whenever you got here. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle, your host, alongside co-host Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'd like to formally welcome all of our friends from Tallahassee in tonight. This is a safe place. You're welcome to be here. We hate them too. Come on in, grab a seat. It's okay.
Come commiserate with people making decisions that should never be making decisions. In fact, there should be no humans ever making choices on playoffs. It should be strictly conference champions, and that's it. I know that's I don't even think Austin agrees with me on that completely, but I want humans to be eliminated from it, period. Except
I don't think
the ones that play on the field.
I don't think anyone would disagree with you. There should be conference champions. I would just say that if there's a debate between the two, maybe the one that hasn't had a loss. That's all we're going to talk about. This does not pertain to us at all whatsoever.
Oh, it pertains.
If we just caught a dadgum punt, we wouldn't even be talking about this. So come on in, Tallahassee. Come on in.
You had to bring that up again. I had washed that from my memory, Austin. Thank you for reminding me of that.
It's been nonstop punting return practice at my house. The 8-month-old twins know how to catch a punt, so we're going to be ready. This will never happen again.
Might have to call DHR on you, but listen, you got to start them early, right? Because if you're making the next great Auburn whatever position they're going to play, even if it's just kick returners. Punt returners. They've got to start early.
Dual punt returners.
Dual punt returners. That's been done before. I think they put two back there and punt and they switch them out. So hey, listen, we might have
twins.
What if they're twins? But they can't wear the same number though.
I know.
You could do like 11 and 77, so it almost in the right angle looks like it's the exact same. And it's like, who do I get? I don't know.
And is it legal for them to like switch every other punt? The other one is 11. The other one's 77. They both say Scott on the back. B. Scott on the back, actually.
There's a lot of loopholes that I'm sure any committee, even a playoff committee, could use to make decisions and things like that. So we'll see. 20 years down the road, we may be talking about the Scott twins wrecking havoc and causing new rules to have to be formed.
That's right.
In college football. Well, we are going to get started with our show here in about 2 or 3 minutes. Most of you know the drill. We'd love for you to start the show by smashing the like button. Do that for us if you can, but also let us know that you're here by posting where you're watching from, your city, your state. If you're international, you can do that as well. Would love to hear from any of you. Well, we can take a few comments and questions before we officially start the recording this evening and get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Ethan says, War Eagle, what do you think about playing the Music City Bowl? We're going to talk about that in the show, but just briefly, I don't necessarily love the venue because we were there all the time, but at least it's somebody new. I mean, that's kind of how I feel, Austin.
No, I agree. I went up there at 18 when we massacred Purdue. I know we played there in 2004. Am I missing another one?
It feels like we've been there almost every 2 years or something like that.
I really just didn't want to go to Tampa, which I think is a little bit higher on the pecking order, and the Outback now. I don't know whatever it's called.
ReliaQuest.
That's so stupid. ReliaQuest doesn't give away free shrimp and free whatever the other thing was.
I'm fine with the brands being attached, but leave the traditional names there. The Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl, all that stuff. They need a fun name with them because nobody wants to say the ReliaQuest Bowl. Sorry, ReliaQuest, if you wanted to be a sponsor.
Yeah, well, it's dumb. Anyway, yes, I'm fine with it. I think it's great for Nashville, the Music City Bowl, and Auburn. I mean, we've taled about this.
It's going to be a good showing.
It'll be a good showing. It already was a good showing in Nashville earlier this year for Auburn. And if we're being completely honest, that's what the bowl games are about. getting tickets, selling tickets, making money, and getting people in the seats, which might be why we had the decision we had in the semifinal. Anyway, it's a great for Auburn. I'm so glad it's not Wisconsin. I'm so glad it's not Northwestern.
Western.
Just did not want to see who was the other one I was trying not to or trying to
Nebraska?
avoid.
No, we only
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Did not want to see any of those teams that we've seen what feels like 1,000 times. So Maryland is a great
Yep.
for me. I think they're a pretty dangerous passing team. There's a Tagovailoa on the other side. I love that for the storylines. I'm good with it. I think our buddy Clint said it's been 40 years since Auburn played Maryland. That's awesome. I think that is definitely a goal for if you're going to make things interesting, do something like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I really couldn't tell you a thing about Maryland other than that Tua's little brother is quarterback, but it should be fun. I'm calling it the Under Armour Bowl.
That's a good one. And so many angles to take with that. But yeah, we'll cover some of those angles when we start recording here in just a second. Deshaun's here. Good to see you, Deshaun on Facebook. Thanks for hanging out with us. So with that being said, here's how it's going to go for those of you that might be new. And David's here too. I didn't say hello to David. We are about to record a 30-minute-ish show with 3 10-minute-ish segments. A little potpourri. We're going to talk about the bowl game for us, and probably on top of that, a little bit of other bowl playoff discussion. And then we're going to kind of mention just perspectives on the transfer portal as it opens up tomorrow for this season, and how Auburn may or may not be getting involved in that process and what that might mean for us in the future. Kind of a preview. Ooh, as I try to hold back some hiccups or something, a preview for that. And then stay tuned after the show. I will hang around and talk with you guys for a few minutes. So, Austin, if you're ready, we can get going.
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
In 3, 2, 1. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. It can be encompassed, encapsulated, defined in many different ways, through many different lives, through many different times. But at its heart, at its core, it is all about our sports, all about our culture, and of course, all about the Auburn family. Since it's about family, we got to have some family members here to talk. I'm your host, Kyle. Alongside me again in chair number 2, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. War Eagles to our listeners, viewers alike. Good to be back. On a weekend, Auburn did not play football for the first time besides the bye, for the first time in a few months. And it was really strange. And I was just reminded, as we say multiple times, it goes by very, very quick. But we'll talk about, we did find out when Auburn's playing football again soon. And looking forward to breaking down the rest of the Auburn experience with you, man.
Here I was having a great, relatively okay week. And then you reminded me that Auburn football is essentially done. Yes, we get to watch them one more time out there on the field, but bowl games are kind of weird feeling. Some love them, some don't. We're going to talk about that a little bit more detail in the show in just a little bit. But you just reminded me that the regular season's over and the championship week is over. How does it go by so fast every year?
Yeah, you got to value it. You got to value it when it's here, because it is the greatest, and it is gone in a flash. And thankfully, it'll feel like too long, but we'll be back talking about it again next fall before we know it. But it went by really, really quick. But I think we'll have to get into it maybe after the bowl game. But definitely a good year for Auburn, a fun year to talk about, and we'll break it all down, I'm sure, later on.
Before we get into potpourri, and we've got a lot to try to hit on this one, episode 58, who you got for us on episode 58 that you want to honor?
Episode 58. Our brother, no longer an Auburn Tiger, decided to try for greener pastures. Not sure he found them. In Tallahassee, Mr. Keandre Jones, who transferred from Auburn, was a good starter for us on the offensive line, wore number 58. He is now with the Florida State Seminoles, but we are sympathizing with our brethren in Tallahassee, which 10 years ago, I thought never possible to be able to come together with our Florida State friends again. But I think we have some common ground after this weekend.
Different times and different feelings now, as we all kind of sit on the same side of a coin that feels loaded for a certain team in a certain aspect of the college football playoff. We'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. All right, let's hit potpourri real quick. We're going to try to hit a bunch of different things here. I'll do 3 of these in rapid fire succession. 3 commitments on the week. And I think I'm going to pronounce these names right. Kale Ellis, a commit for 2026. Kalen Edwards, a commit for 2025. And then the big one, folks, Cam Coleman, flipping from the Texas A&M Aggies, which was predicted by a lot of people. A lot of people are kind of saying, this is my prognostication card here I'm showing to everybody. Cam Coleman has decided to be part of the 2024 class, making a very impressive wide receiver class overall. Quick reactions, thoughts about those 2024, 2025, and 2026 commits.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one is Cam, no doubt. Everybody was waiting on it. Everybody's been hoping that would come to fruition. A little bit of surprise when he committed Texas A&M back in July 4th, I think. And, A&M's had some issues of their own this year, going through a relatively unsuccessful season, plus a coaching change. And Cam has always been right up the road. It was something that it just made too much sense not to happen. A great position of need for Auburn, plus being right down the road in Phoenix City. It all came together. And we got to get to signing day. I don't think anybody's too worried about the name getting on the paper, but you never know in these days with recruiting. But huge one. The other guys, I truthfully don't know too much about them. Just I think mainly because they're years and years away. But anyone that sees value in joining the Auburn family at any point, whether they change their mind or not, they've got a good head on their shoulders. So congratulations to those guys and their families.
Yeah, it's just good to see a lot of production and early starts to these other classes. Don't be spending too much time on these guys right now. Not to say that we don't believe them, take them at their word, but there's just a lot at play for 2025 and 2026, but happy to have them as part of the commit classes right now. Other things that I want to hit on, it is Christmas time. And as I like to throw a little Christmas in here on the show, you got to take part in something in Auburn today. What was that, sir?
Yep. Downtown Auburn, it's been rainy, so it was supposed to be all weekend, but they have had their Christmas festivities have begun. The family and I went down to the Auburn Downtown Christmas Parade today, Kyle, and it was awesome. It was super fun. What?
Is the Auburn band part of that, or is it just?
They were not. Okay. They were not. There was the Auburn High School band, and it's various vendors and various people around the community that take part in it. It's a lot of advertising, if we're being completely honest, but nonetheless, second most important person was there to wrap it up. Santa Claus was there. The most important person started it off, and that's Aubie. So it was delightful. My 8-month-old, one slept through the entire thing. Literally woke up right as it ended. But Brooks loved seeing Aubie. He didn't care too much about Santa Claus, so I think we're doing some things right here.
It's Aubie Claus, right? I mean, I know.
He was dressed up.
So it's Aubie Claus. It counts. That all goes around the same way, just with stripes. That's our house. That's the only difference right there. But I'm always jealous that you get to take part in those community events. Another reason I want to move to Auburn, but that's still going to be a ways off, my friend, for now. Another topic to hit, the ACC SEC Challenge inaugural for both men and women, both successful for the Tigers in basketball. Auburn takes down Virginia Tech at home. The women take down Clemson at home. While I'm sad to see the Big 12 SEC Challenge end, this seems like it's going to be a fun one with a lot of new matchups that maybe we don't see as often. So I loved it, frankly.
Yeah, no, I loved it too. Of course, the Auburn women got Clemson. I mean, have we not seen this song and dance before, folks? Like, let's try anything. And then I think you and I talked about I don't know how you mess it up and put Virginia with A&M and Virginia Tech with us with the storylines there. Nonetheless, Auburn handled business. I actually got to go to the game. It was incredible. Really got to just see the atmosphere this year on it and to the next level. And Auburn was fantastic. So, of course, they fell today at App State. We hate to talk about, but
had to bring it up.
Hey, we gotta cover our bases here. Kyle, did you think it was interesting that both the men's and women's ACC SEC challenges finished at a dead even tie, 7-7?
Almost like somebody planned that way.
Very
almost
interesting. We're gonna
interesting.
start being a little like we're gonna get accused of being some like conspiracy theorists here soon.
Hey, next thing you're going to tell me is that, a team that's undefeated doesn't deserve to be in a
Oh
playoff.
boy.
There it
Oh
went.
boy.
Oh, there it went. Save it, save it. There's plenty of time to talk about that a little bit later. Sad note, volleyball season has come to an end. I
Yeah.
think a little bit of a surprise because Western Michigan, if I believe I was correct,
Yep.
beat Auburn in the first round and was the lower seeded team in
Right.
a 3-set sweep. So I'm sad that that's how it ends this season, even though there's been some up and downs. But again, a lot to be proud of in a very young program in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of history. This is the second year
Mm-hmm.
in a row that we've made the NCAA tournament in volleyball, and first time it's been done in history. So even though it ends abruptly, still continue to see us moving in the right direction as a program. So there's something to celebrate, at least in that.
No, absolutely. And Auburn kind of got bit by the really hot mid-major team. I guess mid-major in volleyball, right? We'll go with that
Right.
terminology. I think Western Michigan had lost 2 games all year. It reminds me a lot of the Peach Bowl with UCF or all these other times Auburn's gotten matched up with the really hot mid-major team that views it as a big opportunity. And Western Michigan certainly did that, and they handled business against Auburn. So it really stinks that it came to an end and didn't get the big um, upset or big long run like we hoped for after last year's success.
Right.
But I mean, we've talked before about how Coach Crouch has a young team. Coach Crouch has a young, talented team, and this thing is set up very well. So I'm looking forward to next year and them getting the postseason again.
Just wanted to see progress, and that's what we
Yeah.
continue to see with this team, coaches, staff, players, and I'm really excited for another season to come around and get here because, as we talked about with football, most any other sports, you're just kind of like, man, it goes by way, way too fast. Another little note here. This is one I'm going to take a little personal slant on. And I know it's not the most exciting news out there, but it involves Auburn. Alabama Sports Hall of Fame often gets Auburn inductees. 2 more Auburn ones are heading there this year. Scott Sullivan from baseball. But for me personally, Larry Chapman, who is an Auburn basketball great. He obviously played here at Auburn. He was an assistant coach here at Auburn, but most famously, for maybe not for most, but for a lot of people from the Montgomery Auburn area, you know that he was the longtime head coach at Auburn Montgomery. And at that time, it was the Senators when he was coaching. I don't think they changed to the Warhawks until much later. I don't know the exact time on there, but I may or may not have played a little ball and been a part of one of his teams. Now I didn't play. That was a wise decision, coach, if you somehow watch this. But I just want to give a shout out to my former coach, Larry Chapman, Auburn great, being in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame now alongside Scott Sullivan. Listen, I can still sling it around, just not as well as good enough to not ride the bench for Coach Larry Chapman. So I know you're probably not surprised by that.
No, I think Coach Chapman. I think that his decision not to play you was probably played a big role into getting into the Hall of Fame. So,
Wow.
I'm, I think you
I
should view
thought you
this
were
as
going
an
to be
honor. You should
nice.
view this as an honor, and that you have assisted this fine young man getting into the Hall of Fame. So, congrats, Coach Chapman. Thank you for not letting Kyle get injured.
Well, I think I would have injured more of our teammates than actually assisted in the process. There is plenty more potpourri out there that we weren't able to hit this week. Maybe we'll catch up on some of that later on down the line. We got to move into the meat and potatoes of the show. Coming up next in our 2 main subjects, we are going to be talking about Auburn's bowl game and bowl season. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the transfer portal, which everybody is focused on right now for football. I know, is there going to be some interesting things? All that coming up right here, right next. But first, I got to talk to you guys real quick about something, whether you are me, a content creator, or you're just the audience out there. There's one word that comes to mind that we're all looking for more of, and that is energy. Where do we get it from? How do we get that best source of it from the things that we need to get done every day? Let's just be honest. We need it for the roller coaster ride that is being an Auburn fan. And look, there's things out there that can give you that energy. Some of these big name energy shots out there that you can think of right now, but they all have something in common. They're not the best for your overall health or the best option or solution for you personally, but I do have one for you now, and it's called Magic Mind. After personally trying Magic Mind, I can attest to their claim to be true of defeating burnout and elevating your mental health. Magic Mind gives you the benefits of those other energy alternatives with such things as mental focus and making you more productive, but in a more prolonged and healthy and natural way. Magic Mind has all natural ingredients as well as being sugar and nut free. And it's also ideal for people on those keto, paleo, and vegan diets. I know plenty of you are looking for that healthier alternative out there. Now you have it. Make sure you visit magicmind.com/Auburn podcast. Use the code Auburn20. You'll get 56% off of a subscription or 20% off of a one-time purchase. If you're not convinced, let me tell you very briefly about a family friend that just tried it. He's actually diagnosed with ADHD. His personal claim after trying it, that he felt like Magic Mind gave him the energy and focus that he was looking for without the aggravation of some of his daily symptoms, which some of these alternatives often give him. If you're not convinced by that, I really can't help you. That's a great testament right there. Are you ready to try it? If you are, visit magicmind.com/Auburn podcast with the code Auburn20 for 56% off or 20% off that one-time purchase. Let's move into big topic number 1 tonight. Bowl season. I actually do love bowl season. It gets me really excited because of all the different matchups that you don't normally see. Now, when we get to the playoff now, you see a lot of these matchups over and over and over again, just because of the way things seem to magically work out when certain decisions are made about things. But let's focus on what is most important about bowl season, and that's where Auburn is going bowling again.
We're back.
We're back, baby. After a one year absence from bowl season, we are back at it, and we are not going to the Birmingham Bowl.
We're not in Birmingham.
I think everybody is trying to avoid Birmingham, even Troy, who got stuck there this time. So sorry for our Troy Trojan brethren out there, but you guys can have that. I think they're taking on Duke, if I remember correctly.
Last minute switcheroo. It was Georgia Tech. Now they're taking on Duke. Yep.
Yeah. What was up with that? Why did the switch happen?
I have the only thing I read, which made sense, but I've never seen that before. I've literally once it's broke, it's like that's what it is. I think Georgia Tech's now going to play UCF, and Duke was going to play UCF, but I think Duke and UCF played last year, and so they were like, "We're not doing this again."
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense if it's for a
but
better, yeah.
If you're Birmingham and you had Georgia Tech and Troy, it's like, that's pretty good right there. So
pretty good proximity, probably good travel fan bases, all that type of thing. All right, our bowl game though. We're heading back to Nashville, Nash Vegas. I think they call it Nash Vegas.
Sure.
Sure, we'll go with it. We'll run with it. It's what I called it, apparently. Auburn back in the Music City Bowl versus not Northwestern, not Wisconsin, the Maryland Turtles. Sorry, the Terrapins, but I like to call them the Turtles.
Turtles. We call them Turtles.
Did you know that there's a difference between tortoises and turtles?
Here's the zoology degree. Tell me.
Do you know the difference?
Does it have to do with climate?
You could make that case, but no, it's different from that.
Does it have to do with their age?
Nope.
I don't know. I was gonna say one's older, one gets older, or one is in a hotter climate than the other, but I don't know.
Tortoises have a higher propensity to live on land. Typically, that's all they do. And turtles typically live in the water. That's why you hear like sea turtles and not sea tortoises. You know.
But typically, so like there are turtles that go in the water. Or that live.
There are tortoises that will like go wade in the water, like walk around in it and stuff, but they're not set up to swim. Like turtles are set up to swim.
So if like a turtle is like crossing the road, that would be a tortoise. Maybe.
And then it's not. And look, there's going to be zoologist people that somehow see this and like butcher me for that simplistic of an explanation. But that's basic. Yeah. There's terrapins, which is what they are too. Like there's all kinds of different.
That's different from a turtle and a tortoise.
No, not necessarily, but like it's I opened a door I shouldn't have opened. Auburn versus Maryland, Tigers versus Terrapins. This is a matchup that's not happened in quite some time. I think our buddy Clint Richardson said last time Boomer Esiason was playing was the last time. they played or
like
something like
40
that?
years ago or something like that. So
Yeah, it's
we're
been a minute.
a rematch.
Well, is it a rematch if it's been that long?
Well, it's a I don't know,
Rekindling.
an opponent renewed. Yeah,
Yeah.
rekindling. We'll go with that.
Quite the difference in uniforms if we're going to continue to talk about
Ooh,
Clint's
yeah.
angles. Like, I've never met or seen a uniform in Maryland that's so confused about what it wants to be. You know?
Look, they and we've talked about this. I have no problem talking about this. They're the Oregon's Nike, right?
Right.
Maryland is Under Armour. That's where the headquarters is. That is their baby. That is their school. And they just don't. It's not the same. The swag and the cool factor of Oregon with Nike, I think, is hopeful it translates to Maryland. We're starting Maryland hate month, I guess. It does not work with them, and it doesn't help that their state flag is just absolutely hideous. And so it have you seen it?
I have, but I just didn't think you were going to go in on Maryland this early in the show.
They incorporate so much. I didn't either. They incorporate so much of it in their uniform. It's just atrocious. But I think Clint said we're wearing white. That's at
Yes,
least what was on the graphic.
the
So
graphic, yeah.
that's great. I think we'll look fantastic. Now, Lord knows whatever they're going to wear is going to be interesting. But yeah, interesting uniforms, interesting mascot, interesting place, I guess.
Now listen, it is. I will not knock them for the even though I wouldn't pick a
No,
turtle as
yeah,
my. But you could be the cardinal with a
it's
tree as your mascot. Like
yeah,
that's
it's
so much
different,
worse. It's different.
but it's more the fact that it's like you don't honestly you don't want to be the
Fighting
Maryland turtle,
turtles.
the turtles, but it's the terrapins. Like it's different. I cannot remember the name of the mascot. Is it Tortuga?
It's Tusto, I think, is what his name is.
Something like I used to
Is
play
that?
with him on NCAA 14 a
Did
ton.
you really? Why?
Oh yeah, because he's so weird looking. Well, you know how you can play with the mascot?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he's so strange looking that
I,
it was a lot of fun.
I always played with Obby and ran over Big Al's old
Well,
fat
yeah,
butt.
but
Like,
of
but
course, but sometimes you're wanting to mix it up and see. I mean, there's a fighting turtle right there just waiting for you.
there it is. So many angles with this bowl game to talk about,
Tons.
whether it's uniforms. We could call this the Under Armour Bowl if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Maybe this will help them survive with certain teams. We'll leave that for another day. How do you say his first name? Tagovailoa, or how I can't even say the last name.
Yeah.
To his
Talia.
brother, Talia.
Too sure. To his brother. Let's just say to his brother.
We're sorry. I mean, we don't mean any harm, but we just can't pronounce things. We're just from Alabama. You know what was funny? Watching Alabama fans try to pronounce his name, especially
Oh yeah.
early on, like watching how them try to,
When you only got two teeth.
well, when you don't recognize some of the letters that you weren't taught in school, too. That's hard to say. Anyway, to his brother, and he's a pretty good quarterback too in his own right. We got to face him. I don't know a lot about Maryland right now, personally. Do you?
Yeah. No, there's two things I know. I know that Tua's brother's the quarterback. I found out today he's the all-time passing leader in the Big Ten. So he's slinging it around. And I think that the coach's name is Mike Loxley. I think he was
Yes.
the offensive coordinator at Alabama, which
Yes.
hence the connection.
Yep.
That's all I know. I know that, and their uniforms are hideous, and that's about it.
I do remember Maryland kind of giving some of the bigger Big Ten teams this season some trouble at times. So when I saw the matchup come up, I was like, okay, this is at least a respectable opponent. It's someone new and it's respectable. So we'll have hopefully a good bowl game in the Music City Bowl in Nashville again. Auburn's going to have a great contingency of fans there. And they even have a great, alumni club there that does a really good job of promoting things. And I know several people in the Nashville area that are Auburn fans that are already probably planning on attending. Maryland's not too far away. So we should have a good contingency of fans of both. So I think it's going to be a successful bowl game in terms of numbers, money, all that stuff.
It's on a Saturday. That always helps. It'll be the 30th, I think, is
Saturday the 30th.
Saturday. So you're not hitting New Year's Eve. You're not hitting New Year's Day, which, of course, you'd love to be in those games, but that helps out logistics and things. Auburn went to Vanderbilt this year and took over. And so I have no doubt it's going to be an easy trip. It's like a 1 o'clock kickoff. it'll be an easy day trip in a whole. So I think it'll be a packed out in orange and blue.
Yeah, we'll do some more in-depth look into them and talk about them in the weeks as we head up to the matchup there. But we just kind of wanted to get an initial thought preview about all of that. I think there's a lot to like from this matchup, location, date. Otherwise, there's storylines to talk about with this and connections, even back to Alabama and Auburn there as well. So we can dive into some of that as we get there. Very quickly, if you want to mention any of the other bowl games or rigged playoff selections. Any thoughts you want to share?
Let me think about. I haven't looked at the bowls too much.
There are some good matchups in the bowl games. I will say that much.
Yeah, I need to look at them more. I really wanted Auburn to go to the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that might have been a possibility before the Iron Bowl snafu. They would have played Clemson, so I don't know if I would have really wanted them to go play Clemson in Jacksonville, just because of the repetitive nature of playing Clemson. And the conference championship week, because it kind of led into bowl season. I'm not at all ashamed of my affinity for Bo Nix at Oregon. I really wanted Oregon to win. I thought that was a great game. Heartbreaker for Bo and the Ducks. And if you haven't watched his post-game press conference,
you need to.
Regardless of how you feel about Bo, regardless of how you feel about Bo and Auburn, aside all that you might need to work through yourself. Bo's post-game press conference about just loving college football and just loving having been given the opportunity to play, even though he will never meet his goal of playing and winning a national championship, was great perspective. Absolutely great perspective.
And he's playing in his bowl game.
And he's playing in his bowl game against the group of 5 highest ranked team, Liberty, in the Fiesta Bowl. And easily, it's not my cup of tea thing to do, but an easily kind of justifiable by the masses thing to dip out of early for a guy who's projected in the first round. So I'll be pulling for them. I'll be watching that game for sure. But I can't really think of any of besides the playoff games. I don't really want to get into it anymore.
I know. I'm kind of annoyed with it at this point. I literally sat this entire morning after church looking at my phone, just like, I know what's coming. We all could see it. ESPN primed you for it. They were,
perfect.
They were basically just begging for it and all this stuff. It just is. It's so stupid. It's absolutely stupid. I'm sorry. You can be mad at me. Bama fans call me whine and cry. I don't care. I don't give anything.
The only saving grace is that we will not have to deal with this again. Because next year we'll go 12.
Thank you.
And thank goodness. But it's
they're not 12 conferences, so
no, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so, but regardless, I love bowl season. I call it Bowl Mania. I think that used to be what the pick'em for on ESPN was called, Bowl Mania. So I've still stuck to that. And I just love it. There's college football all throughout the Christmas holiday season, and it will be fun. It's always a good buffer with family time. So it'll be a great time. I will be hook 'em horns all day long for the national championship.
I'll be throwing up gang signs on here. I mean,
it's hook 'em. It's hook 'em all day. Well, they beat them once, so let's beat them again.
Yeah, listen, I don't care who it is at this point. Just get them out of there where they don't deserve to be there. Of course, here I've said that, and they're going to win the whole thing. All right, so as I dig myself a further hole, let's move on to big topic number 2 tonight. We're going to talk about that transfer portal. It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, not Christmas time, as I like to think of it, and I do apologize to the viewers right now. I have not gotten my lights up, even though in this angle you can't really see it, but on our other shows and after the recording, when those of you that stay can see it, I have like a Christmas Santa, an Auburn Santa thing, and all this kind of stuff I'm gonna put up. It is transfer portal season, probably by the time you are listening to this. If you watch the live recording, it hasn't arrived yet, but the transfer portal officially is open tomorrow. Has it lost it? I know. Has it lost its allure for you at this point?
Oh No, I think it's fantastic. It's like we go straight from now. Is it absurd and has it gotten way out of hand? Absolutely. But the transfer portal, it's like the perfect. If you're not in it for the conference championship and you're not in it for the playoff or whatever,
Right.
and you have and the situation Auburn's in where you're still looking to revamp your roster, the portal is like it's like the perfect segue into the off season. The off season that really never happens because of it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's already absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be more and more ridiculous every year until somehow there gets a strangle on this thing. Um, but it's crazy to me that it officially opens tomorrow. Yet we've had a whole week of people basically being in it because they're just saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going
I'm
to
in
enter
it.
it when it hits." And it's
Yeah.
like we've already got people, coaches making visits. I mean, the rules are just the paint on the field. It's like, well, we could paint this line here, but people are going to cross it, so we might as well paint it over here. I mean, it is an absolute free
Kind of
for
like
all,
a
and
kind of like a selection committee's rules, right? They just change
we're
them.
going to hit every segment with. But I think it's nuts, but I love it. Like I love keeping up with it. I think it is just absolute chaos, in a good and bad way.
Mm. I like it. For me, I prefer the old fashioned way of recruiting from high school and building up depth and continuity. Transfers in any regard, even before the portal, I always viewed as band-aids that sometimes, if peeled off too
Mm,
quickly, reveal open wounds that haven't healed yet. Um, Now, if you can swing a really good transfer portal situation every single year and make that work for you and make that your bread and butter, more power to you. I, you
yeah,
know, I think Auburn was in a must utilize the transfer portal at all costs last year. And I think with a season behind us in the first year of Hugh Freeze, you saw why. Um, need a lot of help. And even that wasn't enough in some areas holistically. We had improvements, I think, across the board, still needed plenty more. So the question becomes, Austin, about the transfer portal about to open up, how involved will Auburn be? And when I ask that, not just, we know they're going to be putting their feelers out there. If people are
sure.
interested, talking to them, you do that just because that's a smart practice. But will Auburn be picking up a lot of transfers in the transfer portal season? What are your thoughts? Any numbers, any ideas come to mind?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think and I agree with you that it can't. I don't think you can, for lack of a better term, I'll just say it. I don't think you can Dion the transfer portal every year and take out the whole roster and I don't think that's a successful way,
Right.
um, to to build a college football program. I think there has to be some kind of marriage between the high school recruiting and the transfer portal for you to be long term successful. And thankfully, to put an Auburn spin on, I think Hugh Freeze and this staff understand that. But through the transfer portal, you can also, like you said, kind of help some immediate needs in certain places. Let's remember that a lot of these guys are transferring. Why are they transferring? Maybe they're not getting the playing time they wanted. Why aren't they getting the playing time they wanted?
Mhm.
And so I think there's different ways to look at each part of it. With Auburn, I think that probably going to be active, like you said, and have feelers. And if you can upgrade in certain areas, I think you should. And I think you have to look at that as how many guys are we losing to the portal itself for us, and then also the draft or graduation. How many guys are we bringing in that are freshmen? Can they play right away? And you look at the different numbers of where that is.
Yep.
I think the big one everyone's going to want to talk about, and it's already been just hot and heavy, is quarterback. And I think with Auburn, um, you like what you have in Peyton Thorne. We saw pretty good progress. I think that's probably going to be a place where if they can upgrade, they will.
Mhm.
And I mean, you got to fit. You got to fit. It's got to be a good fit on each side now, right?
Right.
With NIL, with these players having a lot more autonomy and more power to go where they want for what they want, um, is all going to be what's the perfect match.
Right.
Regardless, I think a big pro of the transfer portal is just competition. You know, it didn't really work out the way it was hoping for Auburn, but Brian Harsin brought in TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford for competition. We didn't know who out of that group was going to end up starting. But I think
Both.
with yes, and there's an example of the success of the transfer portal, right? Like it wasn't just because of playing time for Bo; it was It was wanting to be developed, wanting to get ready for the next level, wanting,
Right.
from a personal standpoint, to try something new,
To be
and
protected.
to be protected on and off the field. And so
Took that different angle.
that for Auburn, it'll be interesting to see which way they go. I think this staff is not going to all out blitz the transfer portal for everything they want or for everything they think they need. It's going to have to be the right, for lack of a better term, for the right price and for the right match for Auburn. I don't think this is just going to be a desperate heave into every single person that jumps in. And I don't think it should be. I think that's the
Right.
right way to go about it. And the recruiting in the high school level is going swimmingly for Auburn, as we've already touched
Right.
in Potpourri. And so I have no qualms about how the staff is handling recruiting in high school and transfer portal. I'm glad they're active and dipping their toes in the portal and different people that come in. And I mean, I trust them to do the right thing with it.
Yeah, look, everybody's focused on quarterback because it's the big ticket position. There's a reason there's a lot of emphasis put on that. You can see the difference in a well quarterback team and a non-well quarterback team. And I'm not even saying that Auburn is or isn't. I think Peyton Thorne, much like Hugh Freeze, was given a very tall task to work with, given how quickly or how little time he had to get ready. Was he a perfect quarterback this year? Heck no. But there is a lot of it became evident why he was chosen to be the starter as the season came along, what he's capable of. Now, the question is he the guy going forward? And do you trust that and forego a transfer portal quarterback? The love affair of Grayson McCall continues from Coastal Carolina. Listen, if he comes here, I'll eat my own words, but I wish people would give that up. I don't mean that in ill will during anybody. I'm so tired of hearing his name at this point.
Yep.
But at the same token, like you said, it's got to be a good fit. And just because the transfer quarterback comes in doesn't mean he's the guaranteed starter. He's got to beat Peyton Thorne out, who's got more time with him in this offense, in this system. And frankly, I don't want a two-quarterback system anymore right now.
No.
We've seen enough of that. So if there's the right fit, right time, it sounds from what I heard that Peyton Thorne is kind of wanting to stick it out here, is not looking to leave. Even if maybe there was a quarterback situation brought in, I don't know that for a fact. That's just speculation. We'll see. I just would not put all of your hopes and dreams and beliefs in a transfer quarterback at this point. I think it's probably going to be a little bit of offensive lineman, probably, because we're going to be losing quite a few transfer offensive linemen. Do you think that's a fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at offensive linemen and transfer portal is, for those that are Major League Baseball fans, is at the trade deadline, everybody wants pitching help. Everybody wants relief pitching.
It's a good one.
Doesn't know how good you are. It doesn't matter how bad you are. You cannot have enough relief pitchers. I think that's the way it is with offensive linemen. You can never have enough guys that can sub in, sub out and build the trenches for you. So I think with the offers that have gone out for this year in the transfer portal, that's where it started for Auburn. And those guys are at a high priority across the country. So I don't think you'll see, a lack of interest there. I think you'll probably see a lack of interest on the other side on the defensive, or a lack of interest, not a lack of interest on the other side on the defensive line as well.
Yep.
Same type thing. Everybody wants that. Everybody's going to be looking for that. I personally, and I'm not saying this because of the guys we have or the talent coming in or anything like that. I think you still need to look at the receiver room as some help in the transfer portal. I don't think it's a good idea to just say, look at all these freshmen we got coming in. I mean, we're going to be stuck. I mean, look, they're going to be 18 years old and still freshmen. And that's not always the best thing. Just throw them in there. I think having some guys maybe with some one-year deals. I mean, it is for you.
It's what it is.
Don't call it like that.
That's a Freudian slip, but that's true.
1 year of eligibility left would probably serve this team some experience, and some guys who are looking to maybe get on a bigger level playing field. But yeah, I mean, I think in all areas, Auburn's going to be pretty interested, but probably those the most.
I look at this transfer portal season as Auburn's not going to be stupid. They're going to go after positions of need, But I think this may be a year where you see less of that guy's coming, he's going to be an instant starter, which, is a quick judgment to jump to. But last year it was easy for Auburn, given what they had to kind of fix or get started in the right direction. I think I loved your analogy of the baseball at the trade deadline, going after the pitching. Offensive lineman, defensive lineman, you got to have depth there. And we lacked, especially on defensive line in some regard. At least that's what it seemed like this year a little bit. So I think that's going to happen. It wouldn't shock me. Again, just pure speculation, seeing who we're about to lose. I mean, this was going to be covered in potpourri if we had time, but we're about to lose a bunch of upperclassmen leadership in the defensive back group. DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, Jalen Simpson, Keontae Scott, and I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out there. We got great talent coming up with that.
Zion Puckett. Yeah.
Zion Puckett. We have got to probably find a piece or two that is ready to start right away, that can plug in there and bridge the gap to all that young talent that we brought in last year at the defensive back room and will continue to bring in. So for me, that would be an area that I would look to and say, maybe we find, if you look for, everybody looks for their centerpiece of their recruiting class or their transfer portal. You know, oftentimes it's the quarterback, and that'll probably be the focus for everybody this year. But if you look at that defensive back room, it wouldn't shock me in the least if we somehow found a way to find somebody that's like, oh, wow, that was the big get of the transfer portal season, at least to get us over the hump at the defensive back room.
Yeah.
So a lot of different angles, and there's going to be plenty of discussion about that. Maybe by the time you've watched or listened to this, there's already news about Auburn taking someone or not taking someone. Plenty to discuss coming up in the future, because the transfer portal, basically it never closes at this point, and it's just
never.
It's hard to keep track of it sometimes. That's going to do it for episode 58 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We appreciate you hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. If you want to find me, you can do so on the X/Twitter at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you, sir?
Austin G. Scott, G as in go Auburn.
G as in go Auburn. That's certainly one way to go about that. All that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, that's the show. Thank you all, and appreciate you all. If you do want to support our sponsor that was in the middle of the show, please do go check them out. magicmind.com/Auburn podcast, code Auburn20 is one of the best ways you can do to help us during this time. So appreciate you guys doing that. Austin, final thoughts, questions, derogatory rebuttals?
Really, I think I've had plenty of derogatory rebuttals tonight. I probably should refrain from more. Conservative Cowboy. Does Auburn get Arch Manning if he does enter the transfer portal? I'm going to say no, and nor should they want him.
Interesting. You say you don't want
That's all
him?
I have to say.
Wow. Okay.
What does that fix for Auburn at all, besides that he has the last name Manning? Nothing.
That's all I got. Sometimes we react to names and not necessarily what they're actually
like a selection committee.
Oh, you brought it back around one more time. Well played, sir. Well played. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, sir. And I'm going to stick around and talk to the folks, but it's always a joy and a privilege.
All right. War Eagle, everybody.
War Eagle, Austin. All right, folks. You can hang out with me now if you'd like. I can take any questions or comments that and most of you noticed this during the recording. We don't take a lot of comments or questions or even address most of those, just because it's mainly about us getting the recording done. But now's a good time to do that. So I'll go back and check some of them. But if there's something you really want my perspective on, or just to share your opinion about, post it right now in the comments section if you're watching live. Couple of things, updates for you on what to expect this week. Transfer portal opens up tomorrow, so get ready. I'm sure there's going to be lots to talk about with bowl season. There are going to be some new things and postseason stuff. There's going to be all kinds of content and news coming out, so stay tuned on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, Instagram, what's the thing for Threads, YouTube, obviously, TikTok, and podcasts. Content. But the most secure and direct place to find us next live here is going to be Wednesday night for our Auburn Family live stream, where you can call into the show and talk about anything. We will bounce around to 1,000 different topics wherever you all pick. It's kind of like what we're doing now. If you guys have comments or questions, just on a longer scale form. Dennis Scott, thank you so much. I think your opinion's a little biased, but we appreciate it. That's Austin's dad. But we appreciate it. WT, if they enter the portal and we take them, do they get to practice with the bowl team even if not allowed to play? I do not believe so, because I think you have to be enrolled in classes to do. Do they get to practice? I guess I should read more carefully. To get to practice, I would assume you still have to be enrolled with the bowl team, or with the bowl team, and with the school to participate in practices. It doesn't mean they can't probably be there and do their own practice. I don't know that for a fact. That's a good question, though, WT. Look, whether they can practice or not, getting someone on campus as fast as you can is a good thing, and get them acclimated to everything. Someone else pointed us out during the stream. Scott may be coming back. Smith, Jay Smith. Who am I missing on Smith? Help write it out fully so I know what you're talking about. I'm sure it's just going right over my head. Also, maybe coming back. Who is Smith? Yeah, I know some people haven't made their decisions, but you should just probably assume some of these people that were higher up, even if they've been named for some of these, Senior Bowl type things, until they announce otherwise. You should wait and see what's going to happen with them. Yeah, I'm not sure how it works. I'd love for that to be a reality. It's a good question. All right, comments and questions, keep them coming. Let me look at some of the other commentary we had if we didn't touch on some things. Trying to see what maybe some of you were talking about what we should take in the transfer portal. If you want to know what, and this is one of the things Austin and I always meet before the show to talk about what our two major topics are going to be, unless there's three major topics we have to hit, and pick those two. And, we were going to maybe do a whole segment on basketball. I was like, we got to at least mention transfer portal because people will want to talk about that. And as you could see, literally the show numbers went whoop as soon as we mentioned transfer portal. And there's no way people to have known that, but it's like a call for them. Transfer portal assemble is what it is. I think Auburn football has shown enough this year that they're on the upswing. I think this helps portal and commitments to want to come here. Oh, absolutely. Now listen, if you show you've got a lot of opportunity for people in terms of early playing time, that helps too. So I think Auburn actually finds itself in a kind of a sweet spot. There's a lot to like about Auburn. Historically, currently, the direction it seems to be heading, and opportunity-wise. So opportunities abound for Auburn to take advantage of all of those aspects for itself, recruiting, portal, otherwise. Yeah. It is not hard to be successful at Auburn. Mostly. Jalen Simpson, not Smith. There you go. I hope Jalen Simpson comes back. I think I talked about this on the Wednesday night Conservative Cowboy. I may be wrong if I didn't mention it then. I think Jalen Simpson, the way he started this season, had he continued that trajectory, he's gone. I think he didn't, I won't call it cool off, but didn't have as strong of an end as he did the start. But how could you, the way he started? I think hopefully with NIL, you kind of see the same simulation with Janai in basketball, making the decision to come back, and it's really benefiting him so far. I think Jalen Simpson could be that same story, and I will applaud him so much if he decides to come back. I will also not fault him if he decides to capitalize and head on to the house. But, yeah, I would love for some of these senior upperclassmen guys, maybe with an extra year of eligibility, if they can stick around, especially in the defensive back room, whoo, that would be huge. That'd be huge. I would love that. FSU got shafted in the playoff selection. Yes, they did. We kind of touched on that. I just don't understand it, folks. I just don't understand. And you got to really admire, whether we talked about Bo Nix playing, those that are bucking the trend of those people that are draft eligible, maybe have something to lose in that, deciding that they're going to play. Jalen's a guy I think I'm not saying he has to play, but he really helps himself by playing. But you still, in this day and age, it's very honorable to see somebody say, those are my teammates. I'm finishing this ride with him. I understand the other side of it, but unfortunately, the honor goes to players that say, I want to finish the ride. Yes, wide receiver recruiting is, for now, going very well. And it's hard to ignore that. So hopefully that continues. All right, I got time for maybe one or two more questions. If anybody has something, put them in right now. Like I said, Wednesday night, be here if you can. Would love to have you here. And those of you that have been here for a while and don't call in, what are you doing? It's really easy. You click the link. You don't have to be on camera. I know that's the scary part. Everybody sees everybody calling in that is on camera. We used to have a lot of people that called in off camera. You can do that. It'll just show your name and stuff. I'd love to hear some of y'all's voices. So please do that if you can, especially some of you people that have been here for a long time. And it gives me a break from talking too. What else? We talked about Wednesday night. Just be ready as we go into the off-season basketball season. We'll be doing post-game streams for men's basketball. This weekend, we will do one. Yes, we will do one as well. So be looking for those after each game. With that being said, folks, it was another good stream. Oh, we got one question here I can take real quick. It popped in right as I said that. How far do you see Auburn basketball going in the tournament? No, this is way too early. I see us going fairly deep. I think Auburn has reached the point where they should be expected to reach the Sweet 16. And that's kind of where I start it's kind of like the answer of what do I anticipate Auburn football's record to be every year. I start with 8-4, and then I work up or down as we get closer. I start at Sweet 16 right now and work up or down. So that's going to kind of be my lame answer for the time being. With that being said, thank you guys for being here and being part of the best little family within the Auburn family. It means a lot, and I appreciate the time that you spend with us, whether you're live, replay, Facebook, otherwise. You guys are the absolute best, and ladies too. All that being said, thank you so much. Till I talk to you again. War Eagle.